What was the NSFW incident at your high school? When I was a sophomore, it was known around campus that a specific set of lockers that was between the campus and football field was off limits because over summer break some kids blew the door off the locker with a dry ice bomb in a Propel bottle. Shrapnel. 2 years into my relationship with my now husband, he starts telling a very familiar story and I realized he was the fabled dry ice bomber my school had been talking about for the past 7 years. Someone drew a 25-foot dick and balls on 2 of the bathroom walls, jizzing across the remaining 2 walls. It was found first thing on a Monday morning and was extremely detailed. Someone spent hours on this, meaning they snuck into the school over the weekend for their art project. When I was a freshman, 2004ish, 2 senior boys snuck into the school overnight and painted giant, coming dicks in every mouth of our mascot's image. Like every sign outside, every hallway, the gym, the cafeteria, anywhere there was a panther image, just sucking giant dicks. They also painted a dick on the assistant principal's car. This was way before that Netflix movie came out, but it revived quite the memories on Facebook. They were ultimately suspended and couldn't walk at graduation. I was at my grad ceremony and this one guy, while walking the stage, pulled his pants down and mooned everyone. Not exactly sure what happened to him, but I heard he got suspended and got his diploma taken away from him. Someone did this the year before me. He had cut out holes in each bid cheek and mooned when his name was called. He had painted the year on his butt. Suffice to say, my school was really strict when my class graduated. We had a strict dress code and the sheriff's department patted us all down and checked all of our clothes. Somebody attempted to burn down the school, but only half succeeded. They had to demolish the old part of the school where the fire was started and rebuild an entire new wing. Bright side was we got the first 25-meter pool in the county. You heard it here first, kids. Burn down your school, get a new pool. Middle school, student find a nude pic of a teacher in a biker magazine. Copies went everywhere. She disappeared. Still feel bad for her. In freshman year, 2 female teachers were caught half naked and making out in an upstairs classroom by a janitor while a school play was happening downstairs in the auditorium. Both who are married with kids were fired. They then sued and got their jobs back 4 years later. Perfectly timed their return as they waited for all the kids who were at the school at that time to graduate so no one would remember or talk about it. And within the next handful of years a few more teachers in the same school were caught having inappropriate relationships with some of the students. The school has been nicknamed Horn Dog High by the media for obvious reasons. This school is also known for its famous alumni, Chris Rock, Judge Judy, Bernie Sanders, Chuck Schumer, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Andrew Dice Clay, among others. Some kid shit his pants and threw up while we were doing a couple miles run. Worst part is the closest person to him when it happened was his crush. That's a wild way to tell your children how you met their mother. When I was a sophomore, a guy asked a girl to prom by getting on stage wearing a paintball vest with red paper rolled into tube stuffed in it to make it look like he had bombs strapped to his chest. He held a sign that said, "I'm kind of the bomb. Will you be my date to prom?" She said yes. He was suspended and not allowed to go to prom, and she went with someone else. Lol. It made news, which was just amazing since this was a small town. He claimed the school was racist and that if he were white he wouldn't have gotten in trouble for it. For Spirit Week we had dressed like a historical figure day. One of my buddies is Iranian/Saudi and he had the bright idea to dress as Osama bin Laden. This was in June of 2011, less than a month after they killed him. He got his picture taken by the history teacher and was sent home to change. The next day was Throwback Thursday and he dressed as a giant sperm. Dude was dedicated to his costumes. Lol, he died in a car crash a couple of years ago. R.I.P. Amd. One of our football players was struck by lightning during a practice and died. Kid stole the whole bathroom. Sinks, doors, locks, hand dryers. He got caught OFC, but they never repaired it, so the bathroom has no working sinks or doors. Got some videos I think. In elementary, 3 sibling boys died with their dad in a plane crash, and their mom opened a children's center in their name with a game room, music studio, and a ceramic studio in their names. Jack, Will and Rob Center. Sad and wholesome. A few kids broke into the high school to steal test scores for the SAT, just like that stoner movie lol. They got caught and expelled. One was my friend's brother. A popular sophomore girl drowned during a party in her own hot tub, huffing dust off because it replaced the oxygen in her body, I guess. That pushed her under the surface, and her parents found her when they came home the next morning. R.I.P. to Nil. Freshman year, a girl who had been at Columbine had just transferred. It had only been a year since the shooting, and she had major PTSD. The principal walked up behind her with a cap gun and fired it 5 inches from her head. He then laughed when she started to panic. The police were involved. Her parents were furious, and he only got a 1-month paid suspension. My government teacher in '99 said every year he would take the classroom hostage with a fake gun and then reveal at the end it was just to see how people would react. He said the school made him stop, maybe because of Columbine, but he wished he could still do it to us. When I was a freshman in high school, we went into lockdown for an active shooter. There were cop cars swarming the building and helicopters flying above the school. It was a whole ordeal, and every student and teacher were obviously scared. There was a rumor floating around that the shooter was in the science hallway, which was the hallway I was in at the time. Due to all the rumors circulating, one science teacher decided to make a Molotov cocktail to throw at the potential shooter, and another science teacher broke one of his golf clubs he had stashed away in half for self-defense. It turned out the shooters were people with paintball guns, and both of these science teachers were fired the next day. It was always talked about the remaining years I spent at the high school about how terribly unfair it was for firing teachers that were, in theory, trying to defend their students from a potential shooter. Someone did a shit on the seat of a toilet, and few guys got a brush and brushed it out into corridor. Headmaster came along and thought it was a fake/joke turd and picked it up. Every boy aged 16 and up was called to an assembly where the headmaster said, "Today I picked up human excrement with my bare hand." A few boys couldn't handle it and burst out laughing. They never found the phantom shitter. Now who made the key in the urinal? This was about a year or two after I graduated, but the cool teacher got busted for having sexual relationships with 2 of his 16-year-old students. At least one of the girls was a player on the school softball team, which he coached. He was married with 2 small children at home, and his wife gave him the boot after that, as did the State Board of Education. I don't remember if he served any time in jail, but he did have to register as a sex offender and will never be allowed to teach again. I think he's a real estate agent now. This was one the light of the incidents at my school. Inspired by the movie The Basketball Diaries, the center of our basketball team made it a habit to masturbate on the roof of the gym. Unfortunately for him, he got caught in a big way by some other students and a coach. Long story short, he was given the nickname Stroke, and the cheerleaders even made a special cheer just for him that they'd break out when he got the ball. During class, my teacher and fellow student got into an argument over being tardy. The student got up, walked over to our teacher, and punched him in the face. The teacher was absent for more than 8 weeks BC of his mental health caused by the incident. Student was kicked out of school obviously. Never found out if he pressed any charges though. Chick not wearing a seatbelt off-roading, got ejected from the car and died. Big ol' thing at the school. We had one of those, except she was just driving home from a friend's house at around midnight. As far as I'm aware she was sober, just got into a random accident without a seatbelt at like 45 miles per hour. Got launched through her windshield into a tree and died on impact. I had a class with her, she was nice. There were a few deaths while I was in school, but she was the only person I knew personally, so it was a weird feeling. This girl got accused of having fake boobs, so she pulled them out. When I was in the 9th grade, for some reason the morning announcements would include student deaths when they happened. Every month for the entire school year, at least one Aboriginal student committed suicide. They eventually stopped announcing student deaths. Edit: this was in Ontario, Canada back in 2004 to 2005. On the bus on the way home from a band event, a guy peed in a Gatorade bottle. When we got back he punted said bottle and it hit the ceiling, popped open, and showered his piss over a number of people. Several of us were called into a room offset the cafeteria to fill out a questionnaire which literally referred to the piss kicking as the incident. Early 1980s rural high school in Pennsylvania. A guy has two buddies stationed to hold the entrance doors open as he proceeds to ride his dirt bike in one door, down the hallway, and out the other door. It was a clean escape, but not for long. Kids talk and everyone knew who did it. A brother and sister who were twins were caught having sex at a party. Naturally this led to police being involved once the word got out about what happened, and one of their uncles ended up being arrested. Apparently from a young age they were being molested by their uncle, and from whenever the boy was able to get hard the uncle made him fuck his sister, so they thought it was normal behavior. We had several, but my favorite is when a theater kid named Roger started selling homemade sandwiches at school. They were delicious and cheap, and put the cafeteria food to absolute shame. His business was booming, and it made the cafeteria ladies super angry. They took the issue to administration and Roger was banned from selling his sandwiches. Roger was determined to right this wrong, and did it in the only way a theater kid knows how, by writing a one-act play with the cafeteria ladies as the antagonists and an underdog hero battling against them. The play was even better than his sandwiches, and was a smash hit at school. He ended up taking it to area, and I believe he even made it to the state one-act play contest with it. He also continued to sell his sandwiches, but simply changed to an ordering system. You ordered a sandwich the day before, and picked it up just off campus boundaries in the morning. Technically not a school issue anymore that way. Nowadays he lives in LA and works as a production assistant. I like to think that the lunch ladies fueled his career by giving him the ammo for his early success. In my high school, we had a student teacher in sophomore year that was fired unexpectedly. After an hour or two word got out she had sent NSFW photos of herself to a student. Some students tracked down her info and her username was Manny269 or something like that. Year 12 started a fight club for the years 9s with straps, betting pools and everything. Also adding in the kid who made a vape and hid it in the bathroom and then got the school sent home for the day because a teacher thought it was a bomb. Someone peeked in and took a picture of a couple from my grade having sex at one of their houses. They then made flyers and littered the entire campus with them. The girl wound up changing schools. That's fucked up. The Popular Boys made a March Madness style bracket of the top 64 girls in my grade and posted it on their Snapchats. A similar incident occurred when a group of popular girls filmed a TikTok talking about who the ugliest girls in school were. I know the main girl in the video was kicked off the volleyball team and got a week of in-school suspension. The others who were part of it were also punished. This didn't happen at high school, but his younger brother was bullied like crazy his senior year for what happened. My older brother and his best friend Eric were seniors when I was a freshman. 2003, Eric's older brother Carol was 28 but well known in the town. He started hearing voices and told the police after the fact that God had instructed him to do what he did. One night when the voices in his head got especially bad, he beat, stabbed, and strangled his mom in the kitchen and sawed her head off on the kitchen floor with a butcher knife. He then placed her head in a grocery bag and left it on the porch and then stole the neighbor's car which was idling while he got ready for work. He ended up crashing the car on the highway and was caught. He pleaded insanity and just got out of prison this year. The story has become infamous in my hometown, and I still see his younger brother Eric around the bars in the area. He's still completely broken, and I feel so bad for him. He lost all of his friends at school after what happened, and was a genuinely nice guy. There were a multiple, but here are a few. Some freshmen sang the song Pumped Up Kicks in the hallway while classes were in session and said, very loudly, "Wow, this song makes me want to shoot up the school," which prompted a lockdown and him getting suspended. There was once a bomb threat made, and the school had to go into lockdown when there were after-school clubs taking place. Cops came and searched the building whilst they evacuated everyone. Thankfully, the threat was a false alarm. 2 people were caught having sex on a couch in one of the classrooms. Some people that were in my grade made a cult around a science teacher. Nothing too crazy happened, but they did have rituals and even made a subreddit about the guy. The teacher quit during COVID. The site we used, Shology, got hacked 3 times. It was the same hacker, and on the last time we got hacked they made a post saying "I'm back motherfuckers." Bunch of lads got together and made a mass Dropbox of all the nudes for the girls in our school. Massive trouble. High school chemistry teacher always treated the boys better. They got better grades and preferential treatment in class. 10 years later he was fired for banging a 17-year-old student he met on Grindr. Don't have a Grindr account if you are a senior level high school chemistry teacher, folks. Some upstanding football players stole our rival's mascot, a living bulldog, and staked it to the ground on our school's field. They forced it to defend itself from another dog, and it barely survived. One of the coaches helped. Nothing happened to them, and later, they graduated to beating a homeless man to death. Good dudes. 3 of my school got a nationwide math test with 0 errors. One was a math genius, the other was equally gifted, but on a broader perspective the third one was not so great in math, I guess C or D tier. Turns out both of them copied from the math kid, but it was so funny that there are these 2 plausible people, and then there is the sports kid just having 0 errors in this exam too, which only 18 people nationwide had 0 errors on. Last year screenshots of a conversation between one of the 40-something male teachers and an 18-year-old boy on Grindr got airdropped to a bunch of people. There weren't explicit pictures, but very explicit messages. One of my friends had him as her teacher, and one day the principal came in and asked to speak with him, and then nobody ever saw him again. Weird 15-year-old girl turned out to actually be a 30-year-old mental patient. The football team often had team meals before games and they were potluck. One kid made shepherd's pie. Not only did he not cook the meat all the way through, he left the dish in the locker room for the entire school day unrefrigerated. The entire team was shitting and throwing up the next day, but all came to school because they had a game. The game got cancelled anyway. One teacher had a heart attack in class, another teacher slipped down the stairs and cracked his head open. Then a girl fell on her scissors, and the janitor died of asphyxiation after spilling chemicals in the janitor's closet. All of that in 2 years. Was your school built over an ancient graveyard? One kid got suspended because he was caught masturbating over an abortion website. Don't know more details, but yep, pretty messed up. What the fuck? Somebody made a Pretty Little Liars style fake Instagram account and bashed everybody they possibly could. Like made videos explaining, with a voice modifier, in graphic detail why said person was garbage. Come to find out it was this random, quiet guy who talked to no one, and it was completely unexpected. Thanks so much for watching the video. If you enjoyed, please subscribe and hit the like button.